So Donald Trump did his little Univision event in Florida. And I went to the Kamala Harris Univision event last week in Las Vegas. It didn't go very well for Donald Trump for a lot of different reasons, but there were many viral moments in this Univision event that were just absolutely ridiculous. For example, he was asked about kids being gunned down in schools, and his response to it, well, listen, people need guns for entertainment and hunting and other things. I mean, it was just a ridiculous response. There were so many ridiculous responses. But I thought this exchange with this construction worker was about as crazy as it gets. And I'm going to talk about this with you as it goes. You have this Republican who voted for Donald Trump in the prior election, who seems to be a little fed up with him. He brings up January 6th and other things. And he asked the question, and then when Trump tries to play off January 6th as a peaceful transfer of power, you see this guy with his facial expressions. It was absolutely great. I want you to listen to this exchange and listen to this very thought out question that this hardworking construction worker asked him in this Univision event.
I am a Republican, no longer registered though. I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay. Your, I'd say, action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years sort of, was a little disturbing to me. What happened during January 6th and the fact that, you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. Coronavirus, I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, and that many more lives could have been saved if we would have been informed better. And also people in your administration who don't support you. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration no longer want to support you. So why would I want to support you? If you would answer these questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro. So the people that don't support a very small portion, we have a tremendous...
Cut it right there. Cut it right there. A very small portion. You have 40 members, you clown. 40 members of your prior administration. That's not a small portion. You have 5-star generals, your former vice president, people that worked for your wife, contractual wife, people right underneath you that are going to be flipping, like Mark Meadows and others, Sidney Powell, that are flipping and going to be testifying against you. He says small portion. Over 40 members of his administration and so many Republicans for Harris, actual staunch Republicans that spoke on the DNC stage, including Liz Cheney. The former Vice President Dick Cheney is going to be supporting Harris. Jeff Duncan, Adam Kinzinger, the list goes on and on. So right off the bat, in the first 3 or 4 words, Donald Trump is lying.
Portion. We have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me.
Lie.
But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity.
Cut it again.
Vice President, I disagree.
Cut it again. You think General Milley is intentionally lying about you because he wants to get publicity? It's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. You think your former vice president is not supporting you because he wants publicity? Because he worked for you, they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. You think the reason why Mike Pence is not supporting you is because he wants publicity? The dumbest excuse I've ever heard in my life.
The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had...
What did he do?
Hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election.
Because of you.
And that's why they came.
Because of you.
Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all. Nothing
Fight
done
like
wrong.
hell.
And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed.
Yeah, because she was an idiot.
There were no guns.
Not
down
true.
there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but
we didn't have guns. The others had guns. This is a former president of the United States. The others are law enforcement. You turd you. we didn't have guns. He's saying we, and he's putting himself in the same realm as the white supremacists, those that beat police officers with their own batons, who sprayed police officers with bear spray, who defecated on Nancy Pelosi's desk, who destruction of property in the House chambers. And he puts himself in that category, the ones he calls hostages and patriots. He says, we didn't have guns. By the way, that's not true. Some of the people that stormed the Capitol did have guns. It's been proven in a court of law. So once again, Donald Trump is lying. They were law enforcement, Capitol Police that protect the lives of people in the House chambers. Isn't it interesting? We have a former president of the United States saying, we didn't have guns. He's putting himself in the same category as those terrorists that stormed the Capitol.
Killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns.
Not true.
When I say we, these are people that walked down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the largest group I've ever spoken before. They asked me to speak. I went and I spoke, and I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters and you look at Hillary Clinton and you look at what they say, and they don't put that on. They only put Republicans on. But they couldn't get me because of the fact that I said everything's got to be peaceful and patriotic. And we'll see how it all works out. But I think that we're right now in another election. All I want is honest elections. I'm willing to take any chance. I want honest elections.
So ridiculous. First of all, as he said the term, which is absurd, day of love, the gentleman who asked that question, who, by the way, deserves a medal for asking a very good question, he was squirming and making facial expressions. He couldn't believe that Donald Trump called January 6th a day of love. There were other people in the crowd shown on camera that were taken aback, couldn't believe the response. Day of love? People died that day. Officer Sitnick died the next day, and there were several officers that committed suicide. Their families said they were never the same since that fateful day on January 6th. There were officers that lost fingers, that were beaten with their own batons. Over 140 officers had to go to the hospital. Some had traumatic brain injury. And Donald Trump is saying that that was a, quote, day of love. For almost 4 hours, he sat on his fat ass and did nothing in the Oval Office when he was begged, and even his wife was begged, will you please put out a statement and denounce the violence? Please. Donald Trump put out a tweet saying Mike Pence should have done the right thing, and then it was deleted. It took him hours to put out a video for telling people to go home. Melania Trump said no when she was asked to put out a tweet denouncing the violence. And he wants to call it a day of love. It's dereliction of duty at the least. If he didn't say that the election was stolen, if he didn't say the lies that it wasn't a free and fair election and the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden cheated, then January 6th never happened. I didn't see the Democrats incite an insurrection. Did you? Maxine Waters, he's referring to a comment that Maxine Waters said, get confrontational, get in their face, get confrontational. Now, I don't like that language. I wouldn't have used that language. But there wasn't an insurrection at the Capitol. Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump an illegitimate president, and that had nothing to do with the actual elections itself, and it had everything to do with his behavior. Hillary Clinton talked about those statements. She wasn't saying the election was stolen. She was saying he was illegitimate because of his behavior and the things he said. Make no mistake about it, Maxine Waters and any comments that she's made, and Hillary Clinton and any comments that she's made, do not compare to what Donald Trump said and what he did or lack thereof for what he did on that day. And that was a pathetic answer that he gave that gentleman, and he knew it. The people in the crowd weren't buying the BS. If Donald Trump didn't say the election was stolen months leading up to January 6th, January 6th never happens. Brian Sitnick is probably still alive today. Those officers that committed suicide are still alive today. And Ashley Babbitt was a fool, and she was brainwashed. And sadly, her life was taken because of her behavior and what she was doing that day. It is absurd. It is ridiculous. A woman was also trampled on the steps outside. What a pathetic answer that Donald Trump gave. So he was asked, What do you like about Kamala Harris? Can you say anything positive about Kamala Harris? Donald Trump, for him, put in a very peculiar situation. Listen to his answer.
What are the 3 virtues that you see in Vice President Kamala Harris?
That's a very hard question. That's the toughest question. The other ones are easy. I'm not a fan. I think she's harmed our country horribly, horribly, at the border, with inflation, with so many other things. But she seems to have an ability to survive. She seemed, because, she was out of the race and all of a sudden she's running for president. That's a great ability that some people have and some people don't have. She seems to have some pretty long time friendships, and that's, also that's, I don't call that an ability. I call that a good thing. And she seems to have a nice way about her. I mean, I like the way, some of her statements, some of her, the way she behaves in a certain way, but in another way, I think it's very bad for our country, very bad for our country. But she does seem to have some relationships that be lasting, and she does seem to be a survivor. Because remember, she was the first one out, and all of a sudden she's running for president. And the other 21 people that are running, they're sitting home watching her on television, right? So that's by far the toughest question I've had today. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your answer.
Yeah, it's very difficult for him to say anything nice about anybody that he doesn't like. By the way, he uses the term survivor as if it's some reality TV show. E. Jean Carroll's a survivor of your sexual abuse. Your ex-wife, who has passed away recently, she's a survivor of your sexual abuse. And I believe the 25 plus women that have come forward that have said you sexually abused them or raped them, I believe they're all survivors. Kamala Harris is a tough cookie. She is an educated woman. And Kamala Harris hopefully will defeat you in November.